I'm going to show you how to cut your floor tiles around a door frame and the architrave. Now, as you can see, I've got a straight cut in here against the wall, and I've got a straight cut with this tile and this row here going underneath the door. Now that goes past the door probably about 60 or 70 millimeters before it meets the next floor in there. However, this particular cut is quite an awkward one because it's got to be a set size to here. It's got to go around the architrave of the door frame, of course, which is standing out proud. And then it's got to continue through to the same length, or width, should I say, as this one. Now, there's three ways of achieving this cut. One is you can use a moulding tool, mould it around the actual architrave and then transfer that onto your tile and cut it out. Or, if you're skillful with a tape measure, you can take the measurements all the way around it and slowly mark that up onto your tile and then cut your tile. Or if you're doing it for the very first time, I'd recommend cutting out a template with a piece of cardboard. Start by placing your tile on, draw around it with the pen, cut it out with your scissors, then measure up the areas where you need to cut out, transfer that onto your piece of cardboard, cut that shape out and then place it into position. It's a lot easier to cut more off the cardboard than it is the tile. Either way, an awkward cut like this is going to have to be cut with a 4-inch grinder. So I'm going to place my cut piece of cardboard directly over this fixed down tile here. The same as what we did when we were cutting the straight cuts. And I can take a full tile and I can place that up against here, just to where it meets the wall. And just to where it starts on the architrave here. Making sure that this cardboard is square with the tile below. And I know that's my line now going across there, so I'll transfer that to that point. Okay, now this section coming around here, again, it's square, so I could lift this up along there, and that would give me another little mark here. But now what I need to do is get my tape measure and measure from this point where that tile is right up to the architrave, leaving about 2 or 3 millimeters for some grout. And same again on the end of this tile here. So we're about 448 there. Of course, your sizes at home will be different. So this is where my architrave starts to step out now. So I'm going to measure my architrave because I want a straight cut from there, which is about 70 millimeters. Take a little straight edge or a set square if you have one. That's my 70 millimeters there. And at that point now, I'm going to start to chamfer off across here. So, and then my tile here goes out to the edge of my outside door frame there. So I'm going to take that measurement, which is about 200. Which will be from the corner of this tile. 200 brings it to about here. Okay, and then I've got to take this measurement, 55, and transfer that onto here. So that's my point there. I'm going to take a square, so I'm coming down about here, this angle, And then my frame also steps in where this slam bead is here. So that stops the door from travelling any further that way. It's the slam bead and it goes into the frame here. I'm going to have about 70mm on there. So again, your sizes at home will differ. So this is the section that I'm going to cut out. I'll go back to my scissors now and cut this shape out. Go across there. Okay, so the beauty about the cardboard is, of course, you can always cut a little bit more off. So this is my first attempt now. Let's see. Oh, slides in, okay. Slides in this side. That looks perfect. Of course, we transferred that with the tile there. We've stepped out there and that's nice. And then we've cut it at a kind of a 45-degree angle there. Check that it fits, and that you do have your 6mm expansion gap around the wooden frame, architrave and the wall. So that's pretty much perfect. All I need to do now is transfer that shape onto my floor tile and cut it out with the grinder. Now I'm cutting this with a 4-inch, which is a 100mm angle grinder. It's a battery operated one, and I've got a diamond tip blade, which is a nice thin one. I'm just gently starting to grind into the marked lines that I made. And if you're not experienced using a grinder, it may also help by drilling some holes at the meeting point before cutting. This will help release stress from the cutting action. Now sometimes you have to cut off more than the shape you need. So as you can see, where I've done diagonal lines, that's the waste section of the tile. What I don't want to do is go past my marked line on the section of the tile that we're keeping, of course. So I start to just grind into it, maybe 2 or 3mm to start with, going along the line. I can't go any deeper than that because it'll mark the area of the tile that we want to keep. So this line across here is where I'll break that square section out further down the line. But I've had to come up to that point because that little square edge sticking out now is what goes around the architrave. And this long straight line area that I'm doing is what butts up to the plasterboard. So I can cut into that now a little bit deeper and all the way through to the back of the tile. And now I have to turn it over and transfer the marks using a set square onto the back of the tile. Start to grind into that. This time you can go a little bit deeper. And then any minute now, a piece should fall out. So, your option is, now the really awkward hard cut is taken out, I can either carry on grinding down there and put it with the dust, or I can put that in my standard tile cutter, press it on here, and hopefully it cracks right down that seam and not across there. Otherwise, you're starting again. Woo! It worked. So now we can see if this fits. Slowly place it in because you don't want to crack it after all that work. Perfect. It fits like a glove. All I need to do now is cut another one for the opposite side, but this time I'm not going to make myself a template out of the cardboard. I'm just going to do the same measurements and mark them up on the tile and just cut it straight from the tile. And this hopefully is what you'll do once you've done a few with the template and got used to doing them. And that's another cut complete. Just make sure that you have an expansion gap around the architrave that's been recommended by the tile manufacturer. So that's all my cuts now complete on both sides of the room. All I need to do now is mix up more adhesive and bed them into position. So give the areas a little dust off to make sure there's no debris in there. Spread your adhesive with a trowel and comb it through the best you can. But in some awkward areas, you can always butter the back of the tile to ensure you have a near full bed when the tiles are put into position. And then start to lay your cut tiles into position. Giving them a little tap, making sure they're level. Be very slow and delicate with your grinder cut tiles because you don't want to crack these and have to do them again. Place your spirit level over the top to make sure they're flush and level with the set tiles. Once the two cuts are in either side of the door frame, then place your centre cut in position. Again, check in with the tile before you leave them to set. Once the tiles are bedded in and set, they can be cleaned, sealed and grouted. Now the cut edge of the tile where it meets the wall will be covered, so this can be a clear silicone. This is often covered by a skating board or another tile. However, the architrave around the frame of the door will be visible. So you either want to grout this with the same colour grout or use a coloured silicone sealant to match your tiles. For more tiling trade tips, subscribe to the YouTube channel.